My panel is back with me now. Fernanda Mondi, Molly Jong-Fast, and Tara Setmayer. Fernanda, Kamala Harris was on The View today, as we've talked about, and she actually responded to Trump's lies about FEMA on The View. Take a quick listen.
It's profound, and it is the height of irresponsibility and, frankly, callousness. People are losing their home with no hope of ever being able to reconstruct or return. And the idea that somebody would be playing political games for the sake of himself, but this is so consistent about Donald Trump. He puts himself before the needs of others. I fear that he really lacks empathy on a very basic level to care about the suffering of other people and then understand the role of a leader.
So, Fernanda, as a fellow Floridian, you and I have been preparing for Category 5 storm here. Kamala Harris has such a great point, though. As a leader, you don't just represent Republicans, if you're a Republican. You represent all fellow Americans. But the absurdity that we've been hearing is the whining and the complaining from the Republicans that this has been a completely political, or there's been the politicization of these storms. And yet we even have Ron DeSantis that won't take Kamala Harris's phone calls.
Katie, this is divide and conquer politics. There used to be some safe zones that, you would never politicize foreign affairs, especially when the American president was traveling overseas, or natural disasters, anything like that that impacted at home. The Trump philosophy has always been as follows. Democrats are incompetent. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris do not know how to administer. So they have to create this lie world, this alternative reality where the economy is in the tank, despite the fact that the economy is stronger than anywhere in the world today, that the administration is incapable of responding to events, which is absolutely untrue. We've seen the response in Western North Carolina. It's massive. It's unprecedented. And it was immediate, unlike what we saw in the Trump years, where the responses to these natural disasters were always slow and halting, and President Trump would
play... If at all, by the way, if Trump even sent aid.
And then he would play favorites. We know of circumstances in North Carolina when he was president, he didn't want to send money because it was a Democratic governor that he didn't want to kind of give a win to. So this is part and parcel of the Trump playbook. Divide and conquer and lie, lie, lie. The problem now, Katie, is you have other sources that are amplifying that willingly. Elon Musk and X is using his platform to disseminate and triple down on these lies. So that's the problem that we're seeing today. And they're being protected also by the right-wing media systems, the Fox News and others that are amplifying these lies.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that people understand that this is exactly the truth. FEMA has provided more than $286 million, with an additional $180 million in mission assignments to federal partners, with nearly 7,000 federal personnel deployed, including FEMA staff. I mean, there's been a huge, as you say, response from FEMA. So, Molly, Trump also said in an interview with Hugh Hewitt yesterday that he's been to Gaza. But the New York Times fact-checked, Trump's worst nightmare here, fact-checked what Trump said. They said there's no record of Trump going to Gaza. And then when asked to clarify, a campaign aide said that Gaza is, quote, in Israel. And because Trump has visited Israel, well, there. I mean, Molly, Trump lies like he breathes. But at the same time, and this is the double standard we've been talking about, right? Like Tim Walz gets dinged because he made some comments about visiting Tiananmen Square in the 80s, which was a while ago, but was kind of part of my life. I mean, Molly, Trump's comments about visiting Gaza, why are they not getting the same treatment?
Right. No, it's a false equivalency, right? The difference between making a mistake, or when you'll see like a news outlet will make a mistake and then they'll apologize, versus brazen lying propaganda. And it's really unbelievable. It happens all the time. Look, I think it's important to mention, like, if Harris had done this, people would be losing their minds. And I also think, and we talked about this earlier, Trump is diminished, right? He is the oldest person ever to run for president now. He is the oldest person ever to run for president. So he is not the person he was in 2016. And I think you see that with questions like this, with answers like he's been to a place he's never been to.
Yeah, and Tara, here's the thing. You keep on hearing criticism coming from the Republicans and the GOP about the fact that Kamala Harris is going to untraditional media platforms to be able to speak to Americans. I think it's been a brilliant strategy to be able to reach voters that maybe aren't the typical person that would be somebody that would be listening to her in the immediate sense. But the hypocrisy is so rank, in my opinion, just because it may be an untraditional place, like a podcast like Call Her Daddy, or maybe even the Howard Stern show. In my opinion, Tara, and I'm asking you, like, if it's a conversation where she doesn't get the questions in advance and there's no issue that's off the table, why does it make it less of a quality conversation?
It doesn't. It is a smart strategy. She's legit meeting people where they are. The Call Me Daddy podcast gets 5 million downloads a week. Donald Trump is ranting like a lunatic on a fake social media site that he created as a way to, like, hide money. Are you kidding? They're talking about that. They're going after Kamala Harris, who's gone on 60 Minutes, who's been interviewed by CNN, who hasn't refused to debate, who does real interviews, and is also employing a new modern day media strategy. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is doing things that are not appealing to mainstream voters, and he's on alt-right social media outlets. Like, the false equivalency here is laughable, and they're just mad because they can't put Donald Trump into these other venues because he can't handle it, period. And she can.
Yeah, it would go down the toilet super fast for Donald Trump. Fernanda Mondi, Molly Jong-Fast, and Tara Setmayer, my fantastic panel. Thank you so much for being with me tonight and getting us started.